Hi, everybody. This is Filberto Amati. I am the owner of this YouTube channel, and I welcome you to our presentation on mastering category management. How to use category management to win in the consumer goods business. Before launching the presentation, I wanted to remind you to subscribe to the channel and click the bell so that you can get notified when new content, new presentations, and new videos are uploaded and available for your perusal. Without further ado, we're starting with the presentation. The first step of the framework is the category definition. The category definition deals with identifying the category boundaries as well as the norms, the codes of the category, and understanding what is the role of the category within the revenue model of the supermarket or the retailer you're negotiating with. The second step focuses on competitive dynamics, understanding who are the leaders, who are the followers, what's the concentration in the category itself, and how you can use that information to your advantage. Third step in the framework, it's the merchandising, which focuses on the whole possible products and references that are available currently in the category, as well as we provide you with some information about category management, shelf profiles, and opportunities for visibility in store. Fourth step, critical step, is category dynamics. We try to understand shoppers, shopping missions, what is the penetration frequency of purchase game, how do we drive loyalty, what does it mean driving loyalty, and what are some of the promotional dynamics within category management. The third part is about the definition of your value proposition by looking at one example of how to create value for the buyers, as well as analyzing a value chain, which is a fundamental tool in negotiating with buyers in the supermarket. So, without further ado, the first step is the category definition. Defining a category, it's not very simple. This is an example from Spain in the biscuit category. I could say the category really, it's the whole biscuit segment, and we want to compete in that. But it's a very top-line view, which doesn't take in consideration of the dynamic of the categories itself. For example, in this specific case, there are a number of occasions which are independent subcategories, and they have their own dynamics. Now, the bottom line is that in this trade-off, you might want to be focused or less focused, depending on how important the subcategories or the overall category are for the buyer itself. So is your referent focusing on one piece or the whole puzzle? This is always the main driver. But of course, not knowing that there are so many pieces might jeopardize your negotiation and launch within the category itself. Another dimension which plays a role in the definition of the category are technologies and benefits, functions, so to speak. On the left, we have an example from the laundry detergents where the function is to wash garments, but there are multiple forms, and each form actually represents a reason to believe for the benefit. Liquid, pods, gels, powder, they're all laundry detergents, but they provide different set of benefits and reasons to believe to consumers. So if you're launching a laundry detergent, are you competing in the category, or are you competing vis-a-vis the pods, the liquids, the powder, and the gel forms? Likewise, in personal care, the example is even more complicated because you have multifunctions and multiforms. So shampoos, conditioners, they come in very many different forms. You have hydrating products and accessories coming with it. They go from spray to foams to mousse to creams, liquid, gel. So it's very broad, the use. And of course, very often, even though they are multifunction, they play a role together in the category, and you have the same buyer. So these definitions need to be taken in consideration to understand what's happening and what's going on within the category and what are its dynamics. Ultimately, what we want to assess within a category, it's the norms or the category codes. Because especially when introducing new products and having a unique value proposition, you will have to respect some of these codes, and you will have to challenge or twist some of these codes. And we will see this at the very end. But identifying the codes is often not very easy. Specific case of the functional waters in the US, and this is the example of Just for Brands, where we see that even though those are all same category products, some of them use more of a sports code, so they want you as consumer to understand that they are for a specific sport-related hydration. Some of them adopt a wellness code, which has to do more with your health, and it's more general and not occasion-driven, but more, let's say, emotion-driven. But understanding the codes is fundamental because those are standards. In this example from soft drinks in Italy, you can see that whether you have multiple formats of dimensions of the containers, materials of the containers, PET, cans, or glass, it is clear from this picture that you need to have a multi-package. Variety packs, multiple packs, not a single serve type of product. And that's the norm in that specific category, in that specific country. Likewise, different example from cheese, the complexity in terms of references can increase. You have single serve creams, you have cheese which is pre-cut, cheese which is sliced, cheese which is grated, cheese in a glass jar, and so on and so forth. So all the packages and sizes need to be taken in consideration to understand the norms, to understand the possibility, and also to understand whether you have one or a different space in terms of your brand taking over the retail space of some of these references. Because usually your form and the form of the product which is coming off shelf are usually similar, and that helps you identify opportunities and challenges in getting retail space. Finally, as mentioned, it's very important to understand what's the role of the category you're playing with within the retailer. You have categories that are traffic builder, so they are what bring consumers and shoppers in store. You have categories that play the transaction builder role, which is filling the basket with many items. Some of them are profit generator, so they deliver margin for the retailers. Some of them are share protector, so they just deliver revenues, not as much margin. Some are excitement generator, so they really focus and deal with a specific segment of the population. And others are image enhancers. So they play a role in terms of what kind of attributes the retailer wants to provide within the target customers. The second part of the framework is the analysis of the competitive dynamics. You need to understand, to begin with, how concentrated is the category. In this specific example, which we saw earlier, of biscuits from Spain, you actually have 3 players which have a joint market share of 41%. You have the private label business, which has, together with those 3 players, 85% of market share, and all the others only 15%. In this specific case, also the top 3 are the most premium players. The 15% represents the middle market, and the private labels are the value-driven segment of the category. So just by looking at this, you understand that most likely, if you are introducing a new product in retail and something needs to come out, you're more likely to steal space from a middle market player, in this specific case, than you are from a big player or private label. And this is fundamental because you need to have this information. You need to have an idea of who are the players and whose space you are attacking, literally. So part of the competitive dynamics is really understand the players, what is their offering, who they belong with, what kind of product target, even design codes they're using, because this is the bread and butter of the category management. This is what keeps awake your buyer at night. But more importantly, what you need to understand is, of all the possible formats, at the different price levels, how are they contributing to the revenues of the category? Because you might need sometimes to target a specific SKU, a specific size of a specific brand. You better know whether that brand is actually contributing 1% or 7% of the whole category revenues. That's going to make your negotiation much, much, much easier. On the other hand, it's useful to understand when you have so many SKUs, which is why we're using the biscuit example, how your pricing compares to theirs. And you see in the specific case, you have an original range and you have more premium ranges, which actually have very different pricing directions. And so it's important to make an assessment on that. The following part, it's about understanding the key trends in a category. In these specific cases, we're talking about beverages, and we take two macro trends, health concerns and sustainability, and decline them in many different future developments. Why is this important? Because this also keeps your buyer awake at night, so to speak, in the sense that they will, of course, look at what are the future trends shaping the category. And if you don't fit as a new entrant in this, you are more likely to have a problem with your negotiation. So you need to be very well aware of this and understanding what it means. This is an example of identifying trends. The specific, it's the blurring boundary trend, from a qualitative analysis and a benchmark. If you don't have access to lots of data and databases, that's not a problem. But you should, of course, try to compensate and complement based on benchmarks. And this is an example of how to do it, just by observing what's happening in your market, in other countries, in adjacent categories, and so on. Third step is merchandising. Now, get your info ready before starting any type of submission to retailers. Technical features, logistical information, product codes, dimensions, the whole 9 yards. So many negotiations actually stall, and with buyers changing their mind, because when this is the most painful part for the buyers, it's codifying new items. And if they see that you are not ready from their perspective, for them the barrier is too high, and they might just decide to drop your product. So have all your data ready to begin with for the codification of the products. The most important part of the merchandising, once we have seen already previously sizes and packs, and we have thoroughly understood what reference and move, is the part which has to do with product placement, or the planogram. Planogram is a snapshot of the retail space, which is used by the category manager to negotiate with manufacturers and distributors, but also to make sure that all the store manager and aisle managers actually have a common and shared view of what needs to be implemented within the category, given the space that they have. The important aspect here to understand is that if you're launching new products, something needs to come off of the shelf. And you better have a very good understanding of how the shelf looks like before your negotiation. You know, being ready, it's your superpower when we're dealing with category management. Now, a reminder, not all positions in shelf are actually equal, and they can determine different product velocities. So we know that the top shelf is not ideal because it's not at arm's reach, but it's actually very often used for more premium or non-standard sizes, and it's still very important. The real hot zone it's the high level, which is when you're in the supermarket, the key area from a vision point of view that shoppers are using, whereas the bottom shelf is less accessible, it's less visible, and is not really promoting high velocity for the products which are shelved there. In terms of being on shelf, there are different placement approaches. You have a vertical merchandising, where products have a defined space from the top shelf to the bottom shelf, or you have horizontal merchandising. Now, cyclically, research emerges that claiming one is better than the other. Some retailers prefer one approach versus the other, so you need to be aware of what your buyers are doing and what to expect. And being ready, of course, it's the most important thing. Being ready with that information, having that knowledge before the negotiation. You have placement approaches which deal with end caps, which is really a specific area at the end of the aisle. They might be temporary placement or full-time placements. You have floor displays, which are bottom left of this picture, where you have a dedicated floor space that gives some sort of extra visibility, especially in when you are on promotion or you have introductory offers, very important. Of course, there is the impulse zone, usually nearby in proximity of the cashier when you're waiting in queue to scan your products and pay. And you have seasonal merchandising displays, seasonal areas, which could be either time of the year or event related to gain extra visibility. This is more typical in the US than it is in Europe. Nonetheless, in Europe, you have seasonal display opportunities, even though they are not as sophisticated. Fourth step, it's the category dynamics. You really need to understand what are the entry and exit point from a consumer point of view within your category. So if you are in the baby diapers, of course, that's easy to understand. But you need to, and this is just an illustrative framework that we use in certain cases to showcase when in the life stage of a consumer, a certain brand or category might or might not be relevant. Entry marketing, exit marketing, very important to understand your shoppers. Even more important is to understand how the category, the retailer, and the formats play within the shopping missions. Not all shopping trips are equal. We can cluster and segment shopping trips by the length of the visit, long versus quick, and by the focus of the visit, low focus, high focus, to identify, for example, 4 clusters. The stock up, which is low focus, long visit, which is your regular grocery stock up. You do the whole tour of the shop, you go in a supermarket or hypermarket, and you fill your trolley as much as possible to keep products in your pantry or chemicals for your house. You have quick visits, low focus, replenishment, where you have a similar trip, but try to focus only on what's out of stock or daily refilling. You have quick visit and high focus, which is usually urgent or on the go. So grab and go items. You go into the supermarket on the deli area, grab something to eat, and then go outside and eat. Or missing items or gifts. You are driving back and you're going out for dinner. You need to buy flowers, bottle of wine, something to share with your guests. This is the type of shopping trip. You have high focus, longer visits, which is so-called fill-in, special meals, Christmas, some other type of holidays. You have a gathering at home, inviting friends for a party, for a normal dinner, family dinner, or sports gathering of some sort. And you have a very relatively long visit in terms of number of categories you're visiting, but also very focused one, because you know that, if you're looking for turkey, you're looking for turkey. You're not going to look for turkey elsewhere. So it's very high focus. Now, very important understanding shopping mission, because they define and determine the length of the trip to the store, convenience, proximity store, supermarket, online shopping, hypermarket. You might, for a stock up or replenish, drive to a supermarket or hypermarket. For a grab and go, you want a proximity store, something which is very close and nearby if you are urgent in your trip. It defines the length of the journey in the store, of course, on the number of categories that you visited, the day of the week and the hours of the day, whether your family, your friends, your partners join on the trip, the economic value of the basket. The stock up is usually much, much, much bigger than the grab and go, and the number of items in the basket. You literally fill the cart in the stock up. You probably don't have a cart on the go. You grab something, 3 items with your hands, and pay and leave. So understanding shopping missions is fundamental in the negotiation, in understanding the category dynamics. And of course, those impact packaging, offering, promotional activities. So very, very key aspect of the negotiation. In terms of category dynamics, the metrics that make it that stand out are penetration and purchase frequency, because they define the playground of the category. When you have a high penetration, high purchase frequency, those are the leading categories. They are much more dynamic, much more aggressive in terms of promotional activities, in terms of market share dynamics. You have high penetration, low purchase frequency categories, very little repeat business. So like mops, stationery, seasonal items. The dynamic here is much more difficult because you don't have a second chance, literally. If you miss the window for your purchase, you might not get a chance in months. You have low penetration, low purchase frequency categories, which are really danger area. Unless this is a category in the impulse zone, then the dynamic is really difficult to deal with in terms of being a brand owner. Of course, you have also low penetration, high purchase frequency, which are niche categories like specialty foods, whereby the dynamic is slightly easier. And if you are on the radar screen of those consumers that adopt the category, you have good chances of building up quickly and gaining velocity. So when you look at volume in a given period of time, the volume is a function of trial, repeat, purchase frequency, and volume per purchase. So if you map trial and repeat, as dynamics, you can identify where you sit and what are your opportunities to improve, your problems, and the dimensions you should be working on. Important is that the repeat side, it's your loyalty vector. If you don't have any repeat, there is no loyalty. Of course, once there is repeat, the purchase frequency and the volume per purchase become the following dimensions to drive loyalty and a repeat business in general. Next, we look at what we call the origami model. Dealing with buyers is a negotiation, and there are aspects of these negotiations which are easily identifiable, and clients are flexible in terms of discussing, and there are parts of the negotiations or items of the negotiations which are a given. So usually payment terms and logistics are pretty much fixed. Clients, supermarkets, especially the larger one, they have their policies. They don't give you much room to play with. Variable incentive, trade allowances, the final price, fixed discounts, those are usually up for grab. And we call this the origami because at the end of the day, every negotiation starts with a flat piece of paper. And the negotiation, it's about folding the paper. And the final output really depends on the combined moves of you and the buyer. It could be a fantastic picture at the end of the day, or a 3D model of a swan, or nothing at all. And that makes both parties disappointed. So that's why we refer to it as the origami model. We mentioned trade allowances. Trade allowances are about building promotions. There are very many different types of promotions to consumers, to distributors, to retailers, from sampling to temporary displays, from shelf stockers for extra visibility to retail media, which is very hot these days and emerging as a great revenue generator for supermarkets. Promotional folders or tags to the above the line campaigns, TV or print, of the supermarket where they promote your products with specific offers. You have TPRs, temporary price reductions, multi-buys, buy one, get one for free, buy two, get the third for free, and so on and so forth. You have loaders where you try to push products and advanced purchases to distributors and retailers. Loyalty programs, which is usually subsidizing some sort of promotion that the retailer itself have with the customers. Coupons, online promotional activities, and variety packs, which are usually promotional items or introductory items that certain type of stores require. Finally, we arrive at the value proposition. We talked at the beginning of the presentation about norms, about category codes, and our model for building a value proposition has three dimensions: the codes we respect, the codes that we challenge, and the codes that we twist. We take this example from Poppi, which is a functional soda. But it's a soda, and it's listed among the sodas on supermarkets. So they respect certain sodas norms, like it's in cans, it's, they have very colorful packaging, which is taste-driven, and it signals enjoyment. But they challenge certain of the soda's codes. So the product contains probiotics, and it's a low sugar, low calories product, au contraire of most of the mainstream soda offers in supermarkets. And they also twist the offering because Poppi promotes gut health. So it has an extra benefit, which, by the way, it's a health benefit, whereas the whole category has a very low health perception for obvious reason, and offers some sort of immunity support. So when you are in a negotiation with a buyer, they need to understand that there are certain norms you respect and that you belong to the category. Of course, if your product is just like any other product, so you don't have any norms challenge or twists in your offering, you're going to have a hard time explaining to the buyer why your product should get in and their other products, which are currently performing, should come out of shelf. Very interesting approach and useful approach in your negotiation. Now, it is true that certain categories, like the NOLO category that we are exemplifying here, have codes which are established. Some categories are new and emerging, and the norms have not been written yet. They are not clear yet. So it's slightly more complicated to use the previous approach. So benchmarking and understanding what's going on, it's really important. In the NOLO category, we really ask our customers to map and understand what the references category of each one of the products and competitors and what's theirs. So to have a better understanding of what the opportunities are. If you have a product which is an aperitif, you are unlikely to take space from a category, within a category, from a spirit lookalike. One of the most important tools of negotiating with retailers and distributors is the value chain analysis, which can be used from the consumer towards the manufacturer to understand from the price on shelf your net selling price, which is important for margin assessments and so on and so forth. So your expected profitability, but as well as the other way around, from your net selling price, what kind of RSP you're going to be having vis-a-vis your competitors. Now, the most common complaint buyers will have is that your product is too expensive. This is what proves or disproves that that's true. Now, of course, they're not going to tell you what margins they have. They're usually commonly known, and you can always make an assessment in ranges. Even distributors' margins are more widely known, actually. But it's important because you need to understand whether it's true that you are too expensive or not based on this modeling. Because that will define a lot about your marginality. And your marginality at the end of the day, it's what helps you financing all the trade promotions and the initial velocity or any shock that might happen, how to sustain and be resilient in the long term. This is the end of this presentation. I wanted to thank you very much for taking part. I look forward to receiving your comments and how we can improve the presentation or what kind of other presentations you'd be interested in. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click on the bell to be notified about new content. Have a good day. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.